Let me deal with the gravest calumny that has been leveled at us this evening, namely that we are pacifists. Captain Barron is no pacifist, and neither am I, and I'll fight any man that says I am. We're not making this proposition this evening because we're pacifists. Neither are we in any sense second to the honourable gentleman opposite in our determination to see the defeat of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Neither are we in second place to defend our people and our homeland against terrorism, which is, of course, a separate matter on which we across the House are in agreement. If Al-Qaeda and ISIS come here, we must shoot them dead. And if I'm the Mayor of London, I'll be out with a well-armed police force helping them shoot them dead. This is an entirely red herring, a straw man introduced into this debate in order to confuse. I want to see every member of ISIS and Al-Qaeda and all the other organizations like them dead on the battlefield. The difference here is our contention that the words Western intervention and ISIS really oughtn't to appear in the same sentence. Because, of course, the West are responsible for ISIS. It was the West who created ISIS, both directly and indirectly. Don't shake your head, even Tony Blair accepts that. President Obama made the case very clearly just a month or two ago. ISIS, he said, grew out of our invasion and occupation of Iraq. It's an example, he said, of how we should aim before we shoot. And he was right about that. But what is less well known, I'm giving the information. What is less well known? What is less well known is that this game started very much longer ago than that. How did the Taliban and Al-Qaeda come to be? They came to be because the British and American governments, principally, using the money of the same satrapies in the Persian Gulf, who are paying for the war in Syria now, built up this monster of Islamist fanaticism and extremism. Don't believe me? Watch Rambo 5. Watch Rambo 5 and see the dedication at the end of the movie to the freedom fighters of Afghanistan, who were, of course, to become Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. It goes back even further than that, but I've only got 8 minutes, and it takes me 8 minutes to get my name and address out, generally. So I'll make my point that our culpability in the creation of ISIS is unanswerable, even from the mouths of those who are principally responsible for it. We're responsible for it. I'm giving the information, son. The responsibility is both direct and indirect. We didn't just invade and break and destroy and scatter to the four winds all the pieces of Iraq that have not yet, may never be put back together again. The reason we've got ISIS in Syria is because the same United States and Britain have been pouring money, material, weapons, political and diplomatic and propaganda support for the rebels. And every gun, every piece of material that we delivered to the battlefield in Syria ended up in the hands of either ISIS or Al-Qaeda or one of these other groups. That too is not contestable. Yes, sir.
Just because we may have a historical responsibility for the actions, the creation of ISIS, does not mean that we have no love for our mistakes.
Oh, trust me, brother. Anybody listening to this debate is only too well aware that you haven't learned from your mistakes. I'm listening to the same kind of Orientalist claptrap that I could have heard at any time in the last few decades. We had a young woman up here saying we needed to educate.
If I may finish my point.
No, your point's finished. Somebody actually came here in Oxford and said we need to educate the Iraqis. The Iraqis were teaching algebra when we were painting our faces blue and living in the forest. You think you need to educate the Iraqis? Really? Really? What are you going to educate them in? Military skills? We're not so good at that anymore. The Queen doesn't have enough soldiers. We ran away from Basra under fire, whipped. The United States withdrew from Iraq, beaten by the resistance of the Iraqi people. We're running out of Afghanistan, and we'll be very lucky if it's only the Taliban that come back to power. Because competing against the Taliban is ISIS. The Taliban are the moderates in the fight that's about to ensue. So the West is a military failure, with all respect to the honourable and gallant officers here present this evening. And where's all this money coming from? Where's all the soldiers coming? How many of you are going to put a tin hat on and go and fight in Syria? Not many, I'll warrant. But where's the money coming from? We can't keep our old age pensioners warm in the winter time. But you want to go around the world setting fire to other people's countries over and over again, and even go back to the same countries and set fire to them again. I never heard such ridiculous nonsense. Let's deal with our own problems. Let's deal with the problems of our own people. If ISIS come here, we'll kill them. And by the way, the Iraqi army have liberated Tikrit, have liberated Ramadi, will liberate Mosul. Let's give them every support, no doubt, but they don't need Tommy Atkins and his gun to appear there and do it for them. And I've got news for you. The Syrian Arab army, a mainly Sunni army, is winning the war in Syria. It'll soon be over. ISIS and Al-Qaeda will soon be defeated. And the last thing they bloody well need is you lot turning up.